Hey guys, it's me, Orange and Blue, and I went through way too much effort to try to prove a point.
As a kid, I grew up with the Nintendo DSi XL, which at the time was the newest and most advanced DS system out there. It had far bigger screens than the DS Lite and regular DSi, 2 entire cameras, internet support, and an online shop, with exclusive games as well as apps already built into the system, like Flipnote Studio, the DSi Sound, and PictoChat. Now PictoChat was already on every version of the DS. It was basically an application where if you were in close proximity to other DS users, then you could create a chat room and talk to them. Or if you were lonely like me, you would just mess around and draw Squidward 1,000 times. Now for the first time in 2004, when the DS first launched, this was pretty cool. But by 2011, it was definitely starting to show its age. That's why, when Nintendo launched the 3DS in February of 2011, they ditched PictoChat and added something new. Streetpass.
Now Streetpass may sound very different from PictoChat, but in all actuality, they use the same technology.
Streetpass allowed any user to download data from another 3DS user if they were in close proximity. This was used for certain games like Animal Crossing, Mario Kart 7, Smash Bros, but most importantly, the Streetpass Mii Plaza. The Streetpass Mii Plaza was a continuation of the Mii Plaza on the Wii, only now they combine the ideas from the Mii and PictoChat into one. When two users have Streetpass enabled on their 3DS and they come in contact with each other, they're able to send their Mii and their profile over to a different user. You can see their bio, what games they play, and all kinds of stuff. This was such a cool idea. You could try to get a whole plaza full of characters from all over the world, and it was so exciting.
So here's the thing. I never had a 3DS growing up, so I never got to experience the wonders of the 3DS Streetpass. But now, things have changed. I got a Nintendo 3DS. The only problem is that I've walked all over the place with this thing, and I haven't gotten any Street Passes except this one random guy from like 5 years ago. Now the main problem is that the 3DS has been pretty obsolete for the past like 7 years now. Ever since the Switch came out, people aren't walking around with their 3DS, so the likelihood of someone having a 3DS with the Street Pass is kinda slim. But what if I tried, and I traveled until I found someone with a Nintendo 3DS? And what if there was a city that had the highest population density in all of the US? Then maybe, just maybe, I might be able to find someone that had a 3DS. And what if that city was... Wait, hold on. First, we have to drive.
And now the first major city I had to drive through was St. Louis. And, well, if you've ever driven through St. Louis, you know that's a problem. Then I went through both Illinois and Indiana, which was by far the most boring part of the entire trip. Like most of the Midwest, this part of the trip was mostly consistent of nothing but cornfields and the worst looking gas stations you've ever seen in your entire life. I stopped at one of these and got what was advertised to have been a chicken sandwich, and as I sit on the corner and eat my lunch, I began to wonder, what if no one had a 3DS on them? What if I was to make a fool of myself thinking Street Pass would still work after all these years? But I couldn't waste any more time, because my next stop was in Ohio. Now there was a lot to do here. For example, I went to Burger King. I ate there.
Why don't we look through the Day in Ohio strategy guide? I mean, there might be something interesting in here. After all, they do say they're the birthplace of aviation. They claim to be.
After flipping through 39 pages and realizing there was nothing to do here, we left.
Our next stop was Niagara Falls. And with being one of the biggest tourist attractions in the US, there had to have been someone that had a 3DS on them.
I walked all around this place hoping to find just one person with a 3DS. But nope, people were more interested in some water falling to the ground, so I went to go see what the fuss was about. I went down, got on a boat, and went inside this waterfall, and you would think that maybe then, my 3DS might have picked up another person. Nope. So we left that place and went to our next stop in Pennsylvania, and let me tell you, Pennsylvania is, it's an interesting place. The small drive we made through it was beautiful. Great mountains, rivers, trees, everything. But as we started to get closer to life, it was, well, it was interesting. We decided to stop in the city of Scranton. Yes, that's Scranton. You know, the one from The Office with the funny man and he says funny things. But as we were driving through this place, we became aware of how run down it was. After making it to the landmark of the show, it was time to go.
As we kept driving, we finally got to the hotel. In New Jersey.
Now I'm pretty sure people only go to New Jersey for two reasons. One, to be closer to New York City, and two, to be closer to Philadelphia, which I'm afraid is even worse. Once we got settled into our hotel, we decided to navigate the depths of the New York public transportation. When we finally got back on the train, we were able to make it to New York City. We didn't do much the first night, as we were just trying to settle in, but when I got back to check my 3DS, nothing.
Oh yeah, it's fine, it's fine. It's not like I just walked across the biggest US city and not one of them had a 3DS on them.
The next day was a lot more exciting though. This is my first full day in the city, and I had a lot planned. The first thing we did was head to the Empire State Building and get an amazing look at the city, but at last, no 3DS users in sight. But as I looked out over the horizon, I knew there would be hundreds of people with a 3DS, just waiting to get a new Streetpass. Walking back down, we went to some cool stores like the Lego store and a few other ones. After the tourism shopping, we went to the NBC studios and got to see tickets of the live recording of the late night show with Seth Meyers. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to film, but I can confirm no one in the crowd, Seth Meyers, Rosetta Jones, or Anthony Starr had a 3DS on them, which is pretty disappointing.
Seth Meyers even walked right up to me and was well within the Streetpass range, but we did not get Streetpass. So you know what made me wonder? He must have not had his 3DS on him, which boggles my mind because what talk show host would not have their Nintendo 3DS on them at all times? I mean, wouldn't you want to get the Streetpass of all your guests? I mean, that's what I would think.
After that, we walked around and I found a hole in the wall video game store. This place had everything, pretty much every heavy hitter, from every console, hundreds of handhelds, with some pretty cool special editions, from the Game & Watch to the 3DS. After seeing all those 3DS models, it made me hope that I might run into someone who might have bought one. Except maybe not, because they were like extremely overpriced. Walking out of here, we stumbled into the greatest spot to get a Streetpass. The Nintendo New York store. Being the only Nintendo store in the US, this was the best chance to get a Streetpass. Walking in, it was definitely packed. There was a lot to look at. Unfortunately, they didn't have as many exclusive merchandise as I was hoping. But it was really cool to see everything in the little gallery of consoles they had. Walking around, I only had one thing in mind. Could one of these people be carrying a Nintendo 3DS on them, and would they have Streetpass enabled? After dinner, we headed back to the train, where I was greatly anticipating to check my 3DS to see if anyone had Streetpassed with me. And when I got back... Let's see, I got Streetpass. Oh. To open it up, I was greeted to this little green light. This could be it. All I ever wanted was going to be in the software. There it was. My first ever Streetpass. I was so enthusiastic. Flame Blaze from Texas, whose latest game was Luigi's Mansion, would now forever be a part of my Streetpass Me Plaza.
But the trip wasn't over yet, because I still had tons to look forward to. Who knew how many more Streetpasses I could get? I was so ready to get as many Nintendo 3DS Streetpasses as I possibly could.
We started the day off by visiting the 9/11 Memorial and seeing the new World Trade Center building.
And while getting some classic New York style pizza, I looked up and I saw it. The 9/11 Burger King.
Now for those who don't know, this Burger King is very historical. During the attacks of September 11th, 2001, the NYPD turned this very Burger King into a temporary police station. Surprisingly, it still had the classic logo on it and looked relatively unchanged since the 2000s. We had a very packed day, for it being the last one we would be staying in the city. From there, we went straight to the Brooklyn Bridge and walked across, shoulder to shoulder, full of people. This was the perfect time to come in close contact with people that would be carrying a Nintendo 3DS with Streetpass enabled. It was a long walk, and the summer heat was not helping. So with that, I got on the subway and made my way to Central Park, which, by the way, is massive. In all the movies and TV shows, they only ever really show the Great Lawn, but there's baseball fields, trees, running trails, and spots just to lay down. But actually, this is a small fraction of the park. There's massive hiking trails in the woods, lakes, this old castle thing, and it's pretty easy to get lost if you don't have a map open. It started getting late, so we had to have our last meal at another pizza restaurant, but it was more Italian style, and the server was like really nice and talkative, and it gave me hope that there might be a 3DS on him.
After checking that out, we headed back to Central Park, and I saw something which I couldn't even comprehend at the time. So for anyone that's seen Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, which you better have, then you would know there's this one scene where an old lady is feeding a flock of pigeons, and when watching that, I was like, okay, that doesn't happen. Okay, that's not gonna, people don't do that, come on. I was proven extremely wrong on this day.
Walking through Central Park, I completely froze when I saw this man feeding what looked like 20 pigeons. I was in complete awe when I saw this in real life, but as I kept walking, I noticed something even stranger. There was a different guy with a massive trash bag feeding what had to have been 15 raccoons.
I was in utter shock how this New York Snow White had animals flocking to him. Pigeons, raccoons, rats, other birds, just completely surrounding him. And he was probably the most New York looking guy I've ever seen in my entire life. So I was praying that he had a Nintendo 3DS with Streetpass enabled on him at all times. Unfortunately, he did not. And like all good things, came to an end.
When finally getting back to the hotel, I opened up my 3DS and was greeted with nothing. So that was it? All this work for one street pass? The last day as we were heading out, we went through New York one last time to watch the New York Mets baseball game. And then, we had our long drive back out. We took a different route this time, so we drove through South Pennsylvania. All I could think about was my one street pass. Was the 3DS finally dead? Did I miss out on this amazing feature that we may never see again? As I stare at my 3DS, I begin to think of all the adventures we had just been on. Going to Niagara Falls, walking all throughout downtown New York, going to the top of the Empire State Building, getting to be a part of the late night show, and visiting the one and only Nintendo New York store. And while the 3DS is just a relic of the past, there's still hope that some are trying to keep the tradition alive.
With the 3DS being discontinued for well over 5 years now, and it being pretty much replaced by the Nintendo Switch for over 8 years, it's safe to say the system is dead. And as years go on, it's going to be even harder to find people that still carry one on them. And I'm just glad to know that I was able to still find one authentically. And it's really reassuring to know that there's still people out there that try to keep the system alive. All that Street Pass I got was from one of those units at the second-hand video game store. Yeah, that's a lot more likely.